How High Performers Think Differently. Audiobook for Success, written and published by Imperium Audiobooks. Introduction. High performance is not an accident. It is not simply the result of talent, luck, or favorable circumstances. It is a way of thinking, a disciplined mental framework that consistently produces extraordinary results. While most people approach life through habit, reaction, and short bursts of effort, high performers operate on a completely different level. They cultivate a mindset that turns challenges into opportunities, setbacks into lessons, and goals into realities. This audiobook is about that difference. It is about the unseen mental patterns that separate those who achieve lasting success from those who struggle endlessly with inconsistency. High performers are not born with superhuman abilities. They design their inner world in such a way that the outer world bends to meet their vision. They understand that thinking drives behavior, and behavior drives outcomes. As you listen, you will notice that the habits of high performers are not complicated or out of reach. They are not mystical secrets. They are principles that anyone, including you, can practice. The difference lies in the depth of commitment. High performers don't just know what to do. They actually think in alignment with success before they act. Their mindset becomes their compass, guiding their decisions, energy, and focus even in the face of uncertainty. Imagine a life where clarity overrides confusion, where purpose fuels persistence, and where your energy feels directed rather than scattered. That is the life of a high performer. They wake up with intention, navigate with strategy, and rest with fulfillment. They do not avoid challenges. They redefine them. They do not fear failure. They harness it as fuel. This audiobook will show you the mental frameworks that make this possible. You will learn how high performers shape their beliefs, discipline their focus, and manage their energy. You will discover the way they interpret obstacles, approach relationships, and sustain motivation when others burn out. Most importantly, you will see how these differences in thought lead directly to differences in results. The goal here is not to overwhelm you with theory, but to immerse you in the mindset of peak achievement until it becomes second nature. Every chapter you hear is designed to be practical, reflective, and actionable. By the end, you will not just understand how high performers think, you will be able to adopt their patterns into your own daily life. Remember, the way you think creates the foundation of your future. If you want to elevate your results, you must first elevate your perspective. And when you begin to think as high performers do, success stops being a distant dream and becomes a daily reality. So, take a deep breath. You are about to step into the mental world of high achievement. Open your mind, absorb the lessons, and prepare to think and live differently. Chapter 1. The Power of Clarity. Clarity is the foundation of high performance. Without it, no amount of motivation, discipline, or hard work will bring consistent success. Many people work tirelessly, pushing themselves day after day, but because they lack clarity, their energy scatters in 100 directions. They burn out, lose enthusiasm, or end up chasing goals that don't fulfill them. High performers, on the other hand, treat clarity as a compass. Before they act, they think deeply about where they are going and why it matters. Think of clarity like light. A lamp can illuminate a room, but a laser, focused light, can cut through steel. Most people live like lamps, giving a general glow, but high performers turn themselves into lasers. Their thoughts and actions are aligned toward a specific vision, and that focus creates extraordinary results. Clarity begins with questions. High performers are relentless questioners, not of others but of themselves. They constantly ask, what do I really want? Why do I want it? What will it give me? What am I willing to sacrifice for it? Most people never ask these questions with sincerity. They live on autopilot, following routines that someone else designed for them. But the moment you pause, reflect, and demand honest answers, you begin to separate yourself from the average. Consider this: many people want to be wealthy, but when asked how much wealth would satisfy them, or why they want it, their answers collapse into vagueness. They want more money, or financial freedom, but those phrases are empty without definition. A high performer never settles for vague ambitions. Instead of saying, "I want more money," they define, "I want to create $100,000 in annual passive income within the next 5 years, because that will allow me to work on projects I love while providing security for my family." The difference is monumental. One is a wish, the other is a vision. Clarity also shapes behavior in real time. When high performers face a decision, they don't ask, "What's easiest?" or "What will make people like me?" Instead, they ask, "Does this choice bring me closer to my vision, or does it distract me?" This single filter allows them to cut through noise, temptation, and distraction. They save themselves years of wasted effort by refusing to scatter their attention. Think of Steve Jobs, who once said that focus is not about saying yes, but about saying no. The world is full of good opportunities, but high performers know that chasing too many good things prevents you from achieving the great things. That's why clarity isn't simply about goals, it's about boundaries. To say yes to your vision, you must be willing to say no to distractions, even if they appear attractive. Clarity also transforms energy. Have you noticed how people drag themselves through tasks they don't care about, but come alive when they're working on something they believe in? High performers live in that state of alignment, because their clarity gives meaning to their effort. Work no longer feels like endless struggle. Feels like contribution. The hours may be long, but they are filled with purpose, and purpose has a way of refueling the human spirit. This is why so many high performers seem tireless. It's not that they have more stamina than others, it's that they refuse to waste energy on what doesn't matter. Their mental clarity creates emotional energy, and their emotional energy sustains physical performance. But clarity is not discovered once, unkept forever. It must be renewed. Life changes, circumstances shift, and even your deepest desires evolve over time. High performers revisit their vision constantly. They write down their goals. They reflect weekly, monthly, and yearly. They adapt their course while staying loyal to their purpose. This adaptability ensures that they don't get stuck chasing outdated dreams or meaningless trophies. If you want to begin thinking like a high performer, start with a simple but powerful exercise. Take a notebook and write down, in precise detail, what success looks like for you in the next 3 years. Not vague ideas, but specifics. Where will you live? How will your days look? What kind of work will you do? Who will be around you? How much income will you generate? And from what? Then ask yourself why each detail matters. What will it give you? Why is it important? Push yourself until the answers feel real, not borrowed from society or other people's expectations. The act of writing will sharpen your clarity. It may feel uncomfortable, because clarity exposes illusions. You might realize that some of the things you thought you wanted are not truly yours, but hand-me-down goals from family, culture, or peers. High performers are not afraid of this discomfort. They embrace it, because they know that only when you strip away the false can you discover the truth. Clarity also brings confidence. When you know exactly what you want and why, doubts lose their power. Fear may still whisper, but it cannot dictate your steps. You stop comparing yourself endlessly to others, because your path is uniquely yours. Comparison thrives in vagueness, but clarity kills it. If your aim is defined, you don't need to measure yourself against 1,000 random people. You only need to ask whether today's actions brought you closer to your personal vision. And perhaps the most profound gift of clarity is peace. High performers are not free from stress, but their stress is directed. They may be under pressure, but it is the pressure of climbing a mountain they chose, not wandering endlessly in the dark. That difference turns struggle into meaning. So remember, If you want to think like a high performer, don't start with more motivation or harder work. Start with clarity. Decide what you truly want, why it matters, and what you're willing to do for it. Write it, refine it, revisit it. Let it become the compass that guides every decision, because once your vision is clear, everything else becomes easier. Your focus sharpens, your energy rises, your confidence grows, and step by step, day by day, you will find yourself living not in confusion, but in creation. The life you chose, the life you defined, the life of a high performer. Chapter 2. The Discipline of Focus. If clarity is the compass that shows you where to go, then focus is the discipline that keeps you walking in that direction. High performers understand that the world is overflowing with distractions, and that attention, not time, is their most valuable resource. Everyone gets the same 24 hours, but not everyone uses those hours the same way. The difference between success and mediocrity is often determined not by how long someone works, but by how intensely they can focus. Think of focus like a magnifying glass under the sun. The rays of light are scattered until the glass gathers them into a single beam. Suddenly, the beam becomes powerful enough to ignite fire. Most people scatter their mental rays across dozens of competing tasks, worries, and notifications. High performers gather them, channeling energy into what matters most. That's why they achieve so much in less time. They are not doing more. They are doing fewer things with greater intensity. One of the first ways high performers think differently about focus is in how they value it. Average performers treat focus as optional, something nice to have if circumstances allow. High performers treat focus as sacred. They design their environment to protect it. They silence unnecessary notifications, set boundaries on their time, and build routines that preserve their attention. They understand that willpower alone cannot withstand constant temptation, so they engineer their surroundings to reduce friction. Consider this: if your phone vibrates every few minutes, no amount of mental discipline will keep you fully immersed in deep work. Each notification is a hook that pulls your brain out of the zone. High performers know this, which is why they eliminate as many hooks as possible. They turn off alerts, create distraction-free spaces, and schedule specific times for email or messages instead of allowing constant interruptions. But focus is not only about eliminating distractions, it is also about choosing the right targets. Many people are extremely busy but not truly productive, because their focus is scattered across low-value tasks. High performers ask themselves, what is the one action I can take today that will move the needle the most? This question, simple as it seems, is a guiding principle. It forces them to prioritize results over busyness. For example, a business owner could spend all day rearranging their office or scrolling through social media for inspiration, but neither activity will bring in clients or grow revenue. A high performer instead asks, what action today will directly serve my customers, expand my reach, or generate income? That action might be uncomfortable, like making sales calls or creating a new offer, but because it directly impacts results, it deserves their focus. Focus also requires depth. High performers don't just skim the surface of tasks, they dive deep. They give themselves permission to work in uninterrupted stretches, often for 90 minutes to 2 hours at a time. This deep work produces breakthroughs, creativity, and momentum that scattered multitasking could never achieve. Neuroscience confirms this. The brain enters a state of flow only after sustained concentration, not in between constant interruptions. Think of athletes. When an elite runner steps onto the track, their mind is not half on the race and half on their phone. They are fully immersed. Their breathing, posture, and vision align toward a single-purpose performance. High performers in every field bring this same intensity of focus into their work. They understand that divided attention is wasted attention, yet sustaining focus is not always easy. Our modern world is designed to fragment it. That's why high performers employ rituals. They use morning routines to prime their mind. They set intentions before major tasks, and they often use physical cues, such as clearing their desk or playing specific music, to signal to the brain that it's time to enter focus mode. These rituals train their minds to slip into concentration faster, almost like flipping a switch. Another way high performers maintain focus is through the discipline of saying no. This might be one of their greatest differences from average performers. While most people try to please everyone, agreeing to every request and invitation, high performers understand that every yes carries a hidden cost. Every time they say yes to something unaligned, they are saying no to their true priorities. That's why they guard their time fiercely. They may disappoint others in the short term, but they know that without boundaries they cannot serve their higher vision. Focus also demands recovery. High performers do not try to focus endlessly for 12 straight hours. They understand that the human brain works best in cycles. They take deliberate breaks to recharge, knowing that true focus is about intensity, not duration. A 15-minute walk outside can restore energy far more effectively than grinding endlessly at a desk. By honoring these rhythms, they sustain high levels of focus across weeks, months, and years, rather than burning out after short bursts. If you want to begin adopting this discipline, start small. Choose one block of time each day, perhaps 60 to 90 minutes, and declare it sacred. Turn off your phone, close unnecessary tabs, and focus exclusively on your most important task. At first you may feel restless. Your mind will crave distraction, but if you persist, you will discover the depth and satisfaction that comes from real focus. Over time, you can expand these focused blocks until your days feel less scattered and more purposeful. Remember this truth: focus is not just a skill, it is a choice. Every time you allow distraction to win, you train your mind to accept mediocrity. Every time you reclaim your attention and direct it with intention, you train your mind for excellence. High performers know this, and that's why their focus becomes a weapon. It's how they achieve in hours what others cannot achieve in weeks. So when you look at the difference between someone who talks about dreams and someone who actually lives them, it often comes down to this: clarity gave them direction, and focus kept them on the path. If you want to join their ranks, guard your attention like it is treasure, because it is. Your future depends on where you choose to place it. Chapter 3. The Energy Equation. If clarity gives you direction and focus keeps you on the path, then energy is the fuel that carries you forward. Without energy, even the clearest goals and strongest focus collapse under the weight of fatigue, distraction, or burnout. High performers know this truth. Your success is not just about how much you know or how hard you work, but about the quality and consistency of the energy you bring to each day. Most people underestimate energy. They treat it as an afterthought, something they'll pay attention to only when exhaustion forces them to. They work themselves into the ground, surviving on caffeine, late nights, and stress, only to wonder why their productivity declines and their motivation disappears. High performers think differently. They see energy as a strategic advantage, something to be cultivated, protected, and renewed with intention. Think about a smartphone. No matter how advanced its features are, if the battery is dead, the phone is useless. The same is true of human potential. You may have talent, intelligence, and ambition, but without energy, none of it can be expressed fully. High performers understand that their body, mind, and emotions are the battery of their performance, and they deliberately manage that battery so it stays charged. One way they do this is by prioritizing physical health. While many people sacrifice sleep, diet, and exercise in the pursuit of success, high performers see those as non-negotiables. They understand that sleep is not wasted time. It is the ultimate performance enhancer. Deep sleep repairs the body, consolidates memory, and restores creativity. That's why high performers guard their sleep schedule fiercely, creating routines that allow them to rest fully. They treat rest as part of their work, not as a luxury. Nutrition plays another critical role. Average performers eat whatever is convenient, often fueling themselves with sugar and processed food that spike energy briefly, but crash it soon after. High performers, however, view food as fuel. They eat with intention, choosing meals that sustain energy rather than sabotage it. They stay hydrated, balance their meals with proteins, healthy fats, and slow-digesting carbohydrates, and avoid overindulgence that leads to sluggishness. Exercise is not optional for them either. They see movement as a way to generate energy, not just burn calories. A high performer may start the day with a workout, not because they want to look good on the outside, but because they know it primes their physiology. Movement releases endorphins, sharpens focus, and increases resilience to stress. Even a brisk walk during the day can reset energy levels and keep performance steady. But physical energy is only part of the equation. Mental energy is just as important. High performers are careful about what they allow into their minds. They don't flood their brains with endless negativity, gossip, or mindless scrolling. They curate their inputs, reading material that inspires them, surrounding themselves with uplifting conversations, and consuming content that adds value rather than drains it. They know that every piece of information is like a calorie for the brain. It either fuels clarity or clutters it. Emotional energy is the third dimension, and perhaps the most overlooked. Have you noticed how draining it is to spend time with people who constantly complain, criticize, or spread negativity? High performers protect their emotional energy by setting boundaries. They limit exposure to toxic environments and cultivate relationships that uplift them. They practice gratitude and positivity, not because life is always easy, but because they know that emotional state directly impacts performance. When your emotions are heavy, every task feels harder. When your emotions are elevated, even challenges feel lighter. High performers also use recovery as a weapon. They know energy is not infinite, so they design breaks into their routines. They step away from work, not to escape it, but to recharge. Some practice meditation or mindfulness, quieting the noise of the world so their mind can reset. Others use hobbies, laughter, or time in nature to replenish their reserves. These moments of recovery are not distractions. They are investments that allow them to sustain performance over the long term. There is also the matter of alignment. Nothing drains energy faster than working on something that feels meaningless. High performers keep their energy high by aligning their daily work with their larger vision. When they know why they are doing something, the work itself becomes energizing. Purpose generates energy in a way that caffeine never could. It transforms effort into joy and endurance into growth. And here is where the real difference lies. Most people wait for energy to show up before they act. They say, "I'll work on my goals when I feel motivated, when I feel rested, when I have more energy." High performers reverse the equation. They act first, knowing that energy often follows action. They don't wait for motivation to strike. They create momentum by moving, and that movement generates energy. They understand that inertia is the real enemy. Once you break inertia, your physiology and emotions catch up. If you want to adopt this mindset, begin treating energy as your most valuable currency. Audit your life. What activities drain you unnecessarily? Who in your circle leaves you depleted instead of inspired? What habits, such as poor sleep or endless scrolling, quietly leak your energy each day? Then on the other side, ask what recharges you. What routines, people, and practices leave you feeling stronger, clearer, more alive? Start eliminating the leaks and amplifying the gains. High performers are ruthless about this audit. They know that protecting energy is not selfish. It is essential. Without energy, they cannot serve their families, lead their teams, or achieve their goals. By putting energy first, they multiply their impact on everything else. So as you think differently, remember this: energy is not random. It is not luck. It is a resource that can be cultivated, managed, and expanded. When you treat your body, mind, and emotions as assets rather than afterthoughts, You join the ranks of high performers. You no longer stumble through days drained and distracted. You rise each morning with fuel in your tank, focus in your mind and power in your spirit. And from that state, extraordinary results are not only possible, they are inevitable. Chapter 4. Resilience and the High Performer's Mindset. Every great success story has one thing in common: struggle. The entrepreneur who built a billion-dollar company first faced rejection after rejection. The athlete who broke world records endured years of injuries, setbacks, and doubt. The artist who touched millions with their work lived through periods where no one noticed or cared. What separates these individuals from the countless others who gave up is not talent, luck, or even resources. It is resilience, the ability to endure, adapt, and rise stronger after every fall. High performers think differently about setbacks. Where average performers see obstacles as stop signs, high performers see them as stepping stones. They do not interpret failure as final, they interpret it as feedback. This shift in mindset changes everything. A failed attempt is not proof of inadequacy, it is information. It reveals what doesn't work, sharpens skill, and clears the path toward a better strategy. Most people fear failure because they attach it to their identity. If they fail at something, they believe they are failures. High performers refuse this equation. They separate outcome from identity. A failure is simply a result, not a reflection of their worth. They think, I failed at this attempt, but I am not a failure. I am a learner. I am an experimenter. I am still on the journey. This mental distinction gives them the freedom to try again, while others retreat into self-doubt. Resilience also comes from how high performers frame challenges. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? They ask, what can I learn from this? How can this strengthen me? What new skills or perspectives is this moment forcing me to develop? This reframing turns pain into progress. Even in the darkest moments, they search for meaning, and that meaning fuels endurance. Take Thomas Edison, who famously said he did not fail thousands of times while inventing the light bulb. He simply discovered thousands of ways that didn't work. That reframing kept him going when others would have stopped. High performers adopt this same lens. Every setback is part of the process, not the end of it. But resilience is not just about thoughts, it is also about habits. High performers deliberately build practices that sustain their strength in tough times. They nurture supportive relationships, because no one is resilient in complete isolation. They maintain physical routines, sleep, exercise, nutrition, that keep their bodies strong under stress. They practice mindfulness or reflection to keep their perspective steady. By caring for these foundations, they create reserves of energy and courage they can draw upon when adversity hits. Another crucial difference is that high performers anticipate setbacks. Average performers are shocked when things go wrong. High performers expect it. They know no plan survives unchanged. They accept that the path to success is messy, unpredictable, and filled with obstacles. By expecting difficulty, they are less shaken when it arrives. Their mindset shifts from why me to here it is, just as expected. Now how do I move through it? This preparedness gives them a calmness under pressure that others lack. Think of elite soldiers or first responders. They train not to avoid stress but to function within it. High performers in every field adopt a similar philosophy. Resilience is not about eliminating stress. It's about building capacity to withstand it. Another aspect of resilience is patience. High performers think in long horizons. They know that true mastery and meaningful achievement take years, sometimes decades. Because they embrace the long game, they are less likely to quit in the short term. A bad week does not erase their commitment to a 10-year vision. This perspective steadies them through temporary storms. Yet, resilience does not mean blind persistence. High performers also know when to adapt. Resilience is not about running headfirst into a wall forever. It is about recognizing when a strategy is flawed and adjusting without abandoning the ultimate goal. They are flexible with methods but unshakable in purpose. This ability to pivot keeps them progressing while others remain stuck. If you want to build resilience, start with your self-talk. When you face a setback, notice the story you tell yourself. Do you say, "I can't do this," or do you say, "This is hard but I can learn from it"? Begin reframing challenges as opportunities. Then strengthen your support system. Surround yourself with people who remind you of your potential when you forget it. Finally, treat your body and mind as assets. Rest, eat, move, and recover deliberately, because resilience is easier to access when your system is strong. High performers don't bounce back because life is easy for them. They bounce back because they train for it. They expect it. They practice it daily. And in doing so they transform setbacks into setups for growth. So when the next challenge arrives, and it will, remember, it is not the obstacle that defines you but your response. Think like a high performer. Choose resilience. See failure as feedback, struggle as strength, and persistence as the path. In time you'll discover what all high performers know, that resilience is not just the ability to survive adversity, but the key to transforming it into fuel for extraordinary success. Chapter 5. The Power of Intentional Habits. If you want to understand the difference between ordinary achievement and extraordinary success, look not at talent, luck, or even ambition. Look at habits. Habits are the silent architecture of our lives, shaping outcomes day by day, often without us noticing. High performers know this truth better than anyone. Success is not built in a moment of brilliance, but in the invisible rhythm of daily choices. The average person believes success requires massive, dramatic effort. They wait for motivation to strike, for the perfect moment, or for a sudden burst of inspiration. High performers think differently. They know it is not what you do once that matters most. It is what you do consistently. The quiet rituals repeated over time accumulate into massive impact. Consider this: brushing your teeth once won't save your health, but doing it daily will preserve it for decades. In the same way, one workout won't transform your body, but a pattern of movement will. One focused hour of learning won't make you an expert, but a decade of intentional study will make you world-class. High performers understand this compounding effect. They design their habits to serve their future selves, knowing that small acts done consistently become unstoppable momentum. But here's the key difference. High performers don't rely on willpower. They don't try to fight themselves every day into doing what matters. Instead, they design environments, systems and routines that make good habits easier and bad habits harder. They recognize that willpower is limited, but systems are powerful. For example, a high performer who wants to eat healthier doesn't just vow to try harder. They remove junk food from their environment and stock their fridge with fresh options. A writer doesn't sit around waiting for inspiration. They create a ritual of writing at the same time, in the same place, with the same cues that trigger their creative flow. By turning effort into structure, they reduce friction and make excellence automatic. This is why many high performers follow morning or evening routines. These are not random rituals, but carefully crafted systems that align their energy, focus, and intentions. Some meditate to center themselves, others journal to clarify priorities, others exercise to ignite energy. What matters is not copying someone else's exact routine, but building one that primes you for the life you want to live. Another powerful trait of high performers is intentionality. They don't just fall into habits by accident. They choose them deliberately. Most people allow habits to form passively, checking their phone first thing in the morning, scrolling endlessly at night, or letting stress trigger unhealthy coping. High performers, by contrast, ask themselves, what identity do I want to reinforce? What outcome do I want to create? Then they reverse engineer habits that lead to that result. For instance, if their identity is I am a leader, they might cultivate the habit of listening actively in every conversation, because that builds trust and influence. If their goal is financial independence, They might set the habit of saving or investing a portion of every paycheck before spending on anything else. Their habits are not random, they are aligned with vision. The beauty of habits is that they work even when you don't feel motivated. High performers know that motivation is fleeting, but habit carries you forward on autopilot. A runner who has built the habit of running doesn't ask, "Do I feel like it today?" They just lace up and go. A professional who has the habit of learning doesn't debate whether to read or study. It is already part of who they are. Importantly, high performers also guard against toxic habits. They understand that negative patterns compound just as powerfully as positive ones. A daily habit of procrastination compounds into lost opportunities. A nightly habit of numbing with distractions compounds into wasted years. They constantly evaluate, are my habits building the life I want, or are they silently destroying it? This awareness keeps them aligned and disciplined. But let's be clear, building intentional habits is not about perfection. High performers slip too. They miss workouts, they procrastinate, they fall into distractions. The difference is that they don't stay down. They reset quickly. They understand that missing once is normal, but missing twice risks creating a new habit of neglect. They recover faster because they know the compounding effect is always at work, in their favor or against them. If you want to think like a high performer, begin by auditing your current habits. Ask yourself, what do I do every morning without fail? Every evening? When I'm stressed? When I'm bored? These patterns reveal the trajectory of your life. Then decide on one small but meaningful habit to install. Don't overwhelm yourself with 10 changes at once. Focus on the habit that would create the biggest positive ripple. Start small, but stay consistent. Read 10 pages a day. Write 200 words daily. Save a fixed percentage of your income. Stretch for 5 minutes before bed. These small actions might seem insignificant today, but in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, they will transform your results. High performers don't wait for life to change before they change. They create change by shaping habits. They don't chase motivation. They design systems. They don't dream of transformation. They live it, one intentional choice at a time. So ask yourself now, what one habit, if mastered, would make everything else easier? Choose it. Commit to it. Build it until it becomes who you are. Because in the end, the difference between where you are and where you want to be is not luck, not talent, but the quiet, consistent, intentional habits you choose to live by every single day. Chapter 6. The Role of Focus in Extraordinary Achievement. There is one word that separates the dreamers from the achievers, the busy from the productive, and the ordinary from the extraordinary. That word is focus. We live in an age where distractions are everywhere. Notifications, endless content, constant demands for attention. The modern world is designed to pull us away from what matters. For most people, this is simply the way things are. They allow themselves to be pulled in 100 directions, constantly busy but rarely progressing. But high performers think differently. They treat focus as a discipline, almost like a superpower. Focus is the ability to direct your mind, energy, and time toward one meaningful target while shutting out the noise. It is saying no to 1,000 temptations so you can say yes to what truly matters. High performers understand that without focus, even talent, ambition, and resources scatter into wasted effort. But with focus, even modest effort compounds into extraordinary results. Think of a magnifying glass held under the sun. Spread the rays across a wide area, and nothing happens. But concentrate those rays on a single point, and fire ignites. That is the power of focus in your own life. Many people spread their energy thin, dabbling here and there, starting but not finishing, trying everything but mastering nothing. High performers concentrate their fire. They know that mastery, excellence, and breakthroughs come from depth, not breadth. But how do they do it? The first key is clarity. High performers don't confuse activity with achievement. They are ruthless about identifying their true priorities. They ask themselves what moves the needle, what activity creates disproportionate results. And once they identify it, they double down relentlessly. For example, in business, the average person spends hours perfecting minor details, responding to low-value emails, or tweaking things that don't matter. A high performer identifies the few key activities that drive revenue, influence, or growth, and they dedicate most of their energy there. In health, the average person tries every new trend, diet, or gadget. A high performer focuses on the timeless fundamentals: consistent training, quality sleep, nourishing food. They simplify. They eliminate the noise. The second key is environment. High performers don't rely solely on willpower to focus. They design their surroundings to reduce distractions. They turn off notifications. They create physical spaces that inspire concentration, and they set boundaries with people who constantly interrupt. They know that if you are constantly fighting temptation, you'll eventually lose. But if you design your environment to minimize distractions, focus becomes effortless. The third key is single tasking. Average performers pride themselves on multitasking, believing it makes them efficient. But neuroscience proves the opposite. Multitasking splits attention, increases mistakes, and drains energy. High performers know this. They protect blocks of time to do one thing deeply. When they write, they write. When they listen, they listen. When they strategize, they strategize. They train their brain to go deep, not wide. Consider athletes at the top of their game. A sprinter focuses entirely on the 100 meters ahead, blocking out everything else. A tennis player focuses on the ball, shutting out the crowd. In the same way, high performers in life narrow their attention until only the task that matters remains. That depth of focus creates quality work, creative breakthroughs, and consistent progress. Focus also requires discipline with time. High performers often use tools like time blocking or the one-thing rule, dedicating their best energy each day to their highest value task. They don't let their schedule be dictated by emergencies or by the priorities of others. They build their calendar around focus, not chaos. And here's a crucial insight. Focus is not about intensity alone, it's about consistency. Anyone can focus for an hour. High performers sustain focus daily, week after week, year after year. That is why they achieve extraordinary results. Their compounding attention builds momentum that casual effort never achieves. But let's not ignore the reality. Focus is hard. We are wired for novelty, easily pulled into distraction. High performers don't pretend otherwise. Instead, they practice focus like a muscle. They train it through meditation, journaling, deep work, and self-discipline. Each time they resist distraction, they strengthen their ability to concentrate. Over time, this mental muscle grows so strong that what seems impossible for others, hours of deep concentration, becomes normal for them. It's also important to see that focus is not just about tasks, it's about life direction. High performers choose fewer goals but pursue them fully. They don't try to be everything to everyone. They are selective. They focus on the vision that matters most to them, and they let go of pursuits that don't align. That clarity gives them not only achievement, but peace. So if you want to think like a high performer, begin by asking yourself, what truly matters right now? What if I did it consistently, would transform my life the most? Write it down. Guard time for it fiercely. Remove distractions. Design your environment. And practice single tasking. Train your focus like a muscle. Because the truth is this: in a distracted world, focus is rare, and what is rare is valuable. If you can cultivate the ability to focus deeply on what matters, you will not only achieve more than most, you will achieve what truly matters to you. Chapter 7. The Discipline of Resilience. When we talk about high performance, it's tempting to imagine a life of constant wins, steady progress, smooth paths, and uninterrupted momentum. But here's the truth. Every high performer you admire has faced setbacks, disappointments, and outright failures. The difference is not that they avoided difficulty, the difference is how they responded. The hidden engine behind their success is resilience, the discipline of bouncing back stronger every time life pushes them down. Most people think of resilience as an automatic trait, something you either have or you don't. But high performers think differently. They see resilience as a skill, one that can be trained, practiced, and strengthened, just like a muscle. They treat every obstacle not as a signal to quit, but as an invitation to grow. Where others see failure, they see feedback. Where others collapse under pressure, they learn to adapt and endure. Think about the stories behind great success. Entrepreneurs who built billion-dollar companies often went bankrupt before they succeeded. Athletes who dominate the world stage often endured devastating injuries or years of obscurity. Writers whose books sold millions were often rejected dozens, even hundreds of times before anyone said yes. The consistent theme: resilience. They refused to let setbacks define them. But what makes high performers so resilient? First, they anchor themselves in a bigger vision. When challenges come, most people focus on the pain of the moment, the embarrassment, the frustration, the loss. High performers zoom out. They remind themselves why they started, what they are fighting for, and what the long-term vision demands. That bigger why fuels their ability to endure temporary suffering. Second, they reframe setbacks. Where average performers say, "This means I'm not good enough," high performers ask, "What can I learn from this?" They treat every setback as data, as feedback from reality about what needs to change. This mindset transforms obstacles from dead ends into stepping stones. Failure becomes not the opposite of success, but part of the path to it. Third, they build resilience through preparation. High performers don't just hope for smooth sailing. They expect storms. They plan for them. They build financial reserves for downturns, mental strategies for stress, and support systems for tough times. Because they expect challenges, they're not surprised when they arrive. Instead, they respond with calm readiness. And here's something critical. Resilience isn't just about bouncing back alone. High performers surround themselves with the right people. They know that isolation breeds despair, but connection fuels strength. Mentors, peers, family, and teams all play a role in helping them stand back up when life knocks them down. They don't confuse resilience with rugged independence. They understand resilience is reinforced by community. Another dimension of resilience is emotional regulation. High performers don't let emotions run unchecked. They feel the sting of failure, yes, but they don't wallow in it. They manage stress through practices like mindfulness, journaling, and physical exercise. They recognize that resilience is not the absence of emotion, but the ability to navigate it without losing perspective. Let's not forget physical resilience. The body and mind are inseparably linked. A tired, depleted body weakens mental resilience. High performers protect their sleep, fuel themselves with good nutrition, and train their bodies for strength and stamina. They understand that resilience is holistic. Physical energy fuels mental endurance, and mental strength empowers physical action. Perhaps the greatest mark of resilience is persistence. High performers keep going longer than others are willing to. They outlast the storm. Where others quit at the first sign of difficulty, they continue until the breakthrough arrives. And in that persistence lies the secret. Many times, success comes not to the most talented, but to the most determined. So how do you cultivate resilience in your own life? Start by shifting your perspective. See challenges not as personal attacks, but as opportunities for growth. Train yourself to ask, What is this teaching me? How is this shaping me for the future I want? Then strengthen your foundation, protect your body, manage your emotions, and cultivate supportive relationships. Finally, commit to persistence. Decide now that setbacks will not end your journey. They are part of it. Because here is the truth. Resilience is not glamorous. It doesn't always look impressive. Sometimes it's messy, painful, and hidden from the world. But it is resilience that turns ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. It is resilience that allows high performers to rise again and again, until eventually, nothing can keep them down. So when life tests you, and it will, don't ask, why me? Instead declare, try me. That's the mindset of a high performer. That's the discipline of resilience. Chapter 8. The Science of Energy Management. When most people think about performance, they think about time. They ask, how can I get more hours in the day? How can I manage my schedule better? But here's a truth that high performers understand deeply. Time matters, yes, but energy matters more. You can have 24 hours in a day, just like everyone else, but if you're drained, distracted, and depleted, those hours won't produce much. On the other hand, if you're energized, focused, and alive, even a single hour can produce breakthroughs. High performers know this. They don't just manage their time, they manage their energy. They see energy as the currency of achievement, and they guard it, cultivate it, and direct it with intentionality. Because in the end, it's not the hours you put in that determine your success. It's the energy you bring to those hours. Let's start with the basics. There are different dimensions of energy: physical, emotional, mental, and even spiritual. Each one contributes to your performance, and neglecting any of them will limit your potential. High performers build systems to fuel each dimension, so they can show up at their best consistently. Physical energy is the foundation. Without it, everything else collapses. High performers don't see fitness as optional. They see it as essential. They exercise not just to look good, but to create stamina for the demands of life. Movement, strength training, and cardiovascular health give them vitality that carries over into focus and resilience. They also prioritize sleep, and not just quantity, but quality. They know that cutting sleep to gain more hours is a false economy. A rested brain is sharper, faster, and more creative. Nutrition too becomes a strategy. High performers fuel themselves with foods that sustain energy, not sabotage it. They avoid relying on constant caffeine or sugar spikes, and instead cultivate balanced, lasting energy. Then comes emotional energy. Have you ever noticed how one negative interaction can drain you more than hours of work? That's the power of emotion. High performers protect their emotional energy by managing stress and cultivating positive states. They practice gratitude, they build supportive relationships, and they don't allow toxic influences to linger in their environment. They know that energy leaks through worry, resentment, and drama. By intentionally curating their emotional world, they create the space to thrive. Mental energy is about focus and clarity. This is where habits like meditation, journaling, or even strategic breaks come into play. High performers don't grind endlessly until their brain is fried. They understand the science of cycles. The brain can only sustain deep focus for limited periods, so they work in bursts of concentrated effort, followed by renewal. They step away, recharge, and then return sharper than before. This rhythm of effort and recovery keeps their mental energy high over the long run. And then there's spiritual energy, not necessarily religious, but a sense of meaning and purpose. High performers who burn out often do so because they're working hard on things that don't matter to them. But those who thrive for decades are fueled by a bigger why. Purpose generates its own energy. When your work aligns with your values, you wake up with a fire that caffeine can't match. This is why high performers constantly reconnect with their vision and mission. It gives them fuel beyond the physical. A crucial part of energy management is renewal. Most people wait until they're exhausted to rest. High performers do the opposite. They schedule renewal before burnout arrives. They take breaks, vacations and downtime as investments, not indulgences. They know that rest is not the opposite of work. It is the partner of work. Without it, performance declines. With it, performance multiplies. Another secret of high performers is that they eliminate energy drains. They audit their life regularly and ask, what is stealing my energy? It might be clutter in their environment, commitments they don't care about, or relationships that deplete rather than uplift. They learn to say no, to delegate, to simplify. Every yes is a drain on energy, so they reserve their yes for the things that truly matter. And let's not forget the importance of state change. High performers use rituals to shift their energy quickly. Before an important meeting, they might use deep breathing, power postures, or affirmations to elevate their state. Before creative work, they might play specific music, light a candle, or engage in a short routine that signals the brain, now we create. These rituals may seem small, but they are powerful switches that control energy on demand. Here's the key insight. High performers don't aim to feel energized occasionally. They design their lives to sustain energy daily. They understand that energy is not random. It is cultivated, renewed and directed. This gives them an unfair advantage in a world where most people run on empty. So ask yourself, how are you managing your energy right now? Are you sleeping enough? Eating in a way that fuels you? Moving your body daily? Protecting your emotional world from negativity? Creating focus through cycles of deep work and recovery? Connecting with a sense of meaning that gives you fuel? If not, your potential is being limited, not by lack of time but by lack of energy. Remember this, success is not about working more hours. It's about bringing more energy to the hours you have. Guard your energy as your greatest asset, because it is. The science of energy management is not optional if you want to perform at your best. It is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Chapter 9. The courage to make bold decisions. Every success story has a defining moment. A moment when someone chose courage over comfort, clarity over confusion, and bold action over hesitation. High performers reach these moments more often than others, not because they are luckier or smarter, but because they dare to decide. They are not paralyzed by fear or indecision. They cultivate the courage to make bold decisions, even when the path ahead is uncertain. Most people fear decision-making. They stall, procrastinate, or seek endless advice, hoping for certainty before they act. But life never offers certainty. Every choice carries risk. High performers accept this truth. They understand that not deciding is also a decision, one that often leads to stagnation. By contrast, bold decisions move them forward, even if mistakes are made along the way. Think about the entrepreneurs who left secure jobs to build companies, the leaders who spoke up when it was risky, the innovators who launched ideas that seemed impossible. None of them had guarantees. What they had was courage, the willingness to act in the presence of fear. That is the essence of bold decision-making. But courage doesn't mean recklessness. High performers don't gamble blindly. They gather information, assess risks and then decide swiftly. They avoid paralysis by analysis. They know that waiting for perfect clarity is waiting forever. Instead, they operate with enough clarity to move forward, trusting that they can adapt as they go. This agility allows them to seize opportunities while others hesitate. Another hallmark of high performers is their perspective on failure. They don't see bold decisions as win or lose. They see them as win or learn. If the decision produces success, they gain progress. If it produces failure, they gain insight. Either way, they move forward. This mindset liberates them from the fear that cripples average performers, because failure is no longer fatal, it's feedback. Bold decisions also require alignment with values. High performers don't make choices based solely on external pressure or short-term gain. They ask, does this align with who I want to be? Does this align with my vision? This grounding in values gives them strength to choose even when the choice is unpopular. Leadership often demands going against the crowd, and only those rooted in their values can withstand the resistance. One reason most people avoid bold decisions is fear of judgment. They worry, what will others think? High performers release themselves from this trap. They realize that no matter what you choose, someone will criticize. So why not choose the path that aligns with your highest calling? They are willing to look foolish temporarily in order to create results that matter permanently. Let's also recognize that bold decisions are not always about grand gestures. Sometimes the boldest choices are deeply personal, ending a toxic relationship, walking away from a job that drains your soul, saying no to opportunities that don't align. These are quiet decisions, but they require enormous courage. High performers make them because they know that saying yes to the wrong things means saying no to the right ones. The process of bold decision-making often involves intuition. High performers respect logic and data, but they also trust their gut. They understand that intuition is not guesswork. It is the subconscious synthesis of experience, knowledge, and instinct. When their inner voice nudges them, they listen. Boldness often comes from honoring that inner signal, even when the external world disagrees. It's also worth noting that bold decisions create momentum. Every time you act courageously, you strengthen your identity as someone who chooses growth over fear. This identity compounds. Soon what once felt impossible becomes natural. High performers live in this cycle. Courage begets action. Action builds confidence. Confidence fuels greater courage. It's a self-reinforcing loop of boldness. So how can you practice the courage of bold decision-making? Start small. Begin by making quicker decisions in daily life: where to eat, what task to start, when to say no. Train yourself to trust your judgment. Then for bigger decisions, ask yourself 3 guiding questions. What outcome do I truly want? What values must guide this choice? What is the worst that can happen, and can I handle it? Usually the worst-case scenario is survivable, and the potential upside is transformative. Remember, boldness is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to act despite fear. High performers feel fear just like anyone else, but they refuse to let it dictate their future. They understand that every bold decision is a doorway. Behind it lies either the breakthrough they seek or the lesson they need. Either way, it moves them closer to the life they envision. So when you face your next decision, don't wait for certainty. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait until the fear disappears. It won't. Step forward boldly, because in the end your life is shaped not by the chances you wished for, but by the decisions you dared to make. Chapter 10. Thinking for legacy. Not just success. Success is important. It gives you freedom, recognition, and the ability to shape your life on your own terms. But for high performers, success is not the final destination. It is a stepping stone to something greater. Legacy. Legacy is about what you leave behind, how you impact others, and the mark you etch into the world long after you are gone. High performers think in terms of legacy, not just immediate wins. This shift in perspective transforms the way they live, work, and lead. Most people measure success in short bursts: a promotion, a car, a bigger house, a fleeting applause. These moments are valuable, but they fade quickly. High performers understand that the pursuit of shallow victories often leaves people feeling empty. So they ask deeper questions. Will this matter 10 years from now? Will this still carry meaning when I'm no longer here? These questions move them beyond temporary goals into the realm of lasting significance. Legacy-driven thinking influences daily choices. Instead of chasing every opportunity, high performers focus on what aligns with their long-term vision. They are less interested in being busy and more interested in being impactful. They know that saying yes to the wrong things steals energy from the work that will truly define their legacy. This discipline allows them to channel effort into actions that echo long after they're gone. One critical aspect of legacy is contribution. High performers don't just strive for personal gain. They look for ways to elevate others. They mentor, they teach, they create platforms for others to succeed. They understand that greatness is multiplied when it's shared. In fact, their deepest satisfaction often comes not from their own achievements, but from the ripple effect they create in others' lives. Another hallmark of legacy thinking is values. High performers know that people may forget what you said or did, but they rarely forget how you made them feel. Legacy is built through consistent integrity, compassion, and courage. When your actions align with your principles, you create a reputation that endures. Wealth and titles may vanish, but character leaves a lasting imprint. Let's also acknowledge that legacy doesn't always mean building something massive or public. Not everyone needs to create an empire or be remembered by millions. For some, legacy is raising children who are kind and resilient. For others, it is creating a business that supports a community, or writing words that inspire future generations. Legacy is not about size, it is about significance. What matters is that you leave behind something better than you found it. High performers also think generationally. They consider not only their lifetime but also the future of those who come after. This could mean financial legacy, such as building wealth that secures opportunities for their family. It could mean cultural legacy, shaping a workplace or community where values endure. It could mean intellectual legacy, producing ideas, books, or innovations that live on. Whatever form it takes, they think beyond themselves. Contrast this with average thinking. Many people chase recognition now, even if it compromises their integrity or values. They want applause today, but in the process, they may erode the foundation for tomorrow. High performers resist this temptation. They understand that true legacy cannot be rushed. It is built brick by brick, choice by choice, over years of consistent effort. Another key distinction is resilience. When setbacks occur, legacy-driven thinkers are not derailed. Why? Because they are not living for one win or one season. They are building something larger, and setbacks are simply part of the story. A temporary failure cannot stop someone who is thinking decades ahead. This perspective fuels persistence. Thinking for legacy also transforms leadership. Leaders who pursue only personal success may use people as stepping stones. Leaders who think legacy see people as partners in a shared mission. They create environments where others grow, knowing that the truest measure of leadership is not what you accomplish alone but what you inspire others to accomplish. So how can you adopt legacy-driven thinking? Begin by asking yourself, what do I want people to say about me when I'm gone? What do I want my children, my colleagues, my community to remember? Then live each day in alignment with those answers. If you want to be remembered for kindness, practice kindness daily. If you want to be remembered as a visionary, dedicate yourself to bold ideas. Legacy is not built in the future. It is built now, in every decision you make. Finally, remember this truth. Success fades but significance remains. The trophies, the applause, the bank balance, all of it will one day belong to history. But the lives you touch, the character you display, the wisdom you pass on, those become your eternal footprint. High performers know this, which is why they live not just for success but for legacy. Your challenge is to rise above the short-term chase and think generationally. Build success, yes, but build it in a way that outlives you, because the ultimate victory is not in what you achieve for yourself, but in what you leave behind for others. That is how high performers think differently. That is how they create lives that echo far beyond their own. Conclusion. Step into high-performance thinking. You've journeyed through the minds of high performers. You've seen how they approach challenges, how they build habits, how they stay disciplined, how they view failure, how they nurture relationships, and ultimately, how they think not just for success but for legacy. And now the question rests with you. What will you do with this knowledge? High performance is not a secret code reserved for a chosen few. It is not about being born with talent or privilege. It is about thinking differently. It is about choosing to rise where others settle, to persist where others quit, and to dream bigger when the world tells you to play small. You have heard the principles. You know the practices. You've seen how clarity, focus, resilience, discipline, and vision can elevate ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. But remember, knowledge without action fades. The difference between those who listen to wisdom and those who live it is simple: action. So let this not be the book you merely finish. Let this be the beginning of a new chapter in your life. Starting today, adopt the mindset of high performers. Begin small, if you must. One focused morning, one disciplined choice, one courageous decision to move forward instead of holding back. Over time, these moments accumulate, and suddenly you are no longer just wishing for success, you are living it. By the end of this book, you should believe one truth: you are capable of more than you think. High performers are not different species. They are ordinary people who made extraordinary choices. And now, so can you. If this book has inspired you, if it has opened a window into the way high performers live and think, I invite you to stay connected. Subscribe, follow, or join the journey, because this is just the beginning. There are always higher levels to reach, greater victories to claim, and deeper legacies to build. The world is waiting for your brilliance. Don't just consume these lessons, embody them. Step forward with clarity, discipline, and vision. Think differently, act boldly, and live in a way that one day, when others speak your name, they'll say, "This was a high performer." Your time is now.